Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, Chapter 1. Alice was beginning to get very tired of sitting by her sister on the bank, and of having nothing to do. Once or twice she had peeped into the book her sister was reading, but it had no pictures or conversation in it. And what is the use of a book, thought Alice, without pictures or conversation? So she was considering in her own mind as well as she could, for the hot day made her feel very sleepy and stupid, whether the pleasure of making a daisy chain would be worth the trouble of getting up and picking daisies, when suddenly a white rabbit with pink eyes ran close by her. There was nothing so very remarkable in that, nor did Alice think so very much of the way to hear the rabbit say to itself, oh dear, I shall be late." When she thought it over afterwards, it occurred to her that she ought to have wondered at this, but all the time it all seemed quite natural. But when the rabbit actually took a watch out of his waistcoat pocket and looked at it and then hurried on, Alice started to her feet, for it flashed across her mind, and she had never before seen a rabbit with either a waistcoat pocket or a watch to take out of it, and burning with curiosity. She ran across the field after it, and fortunately was just in time to see it pop down a large rabbit hole under the hedge. In another moment down went Alice after it, never once considering how in the world she was to get out again. The rabbit hole went straight on like a tunnel for some way. Then it dipped suddenly down, so suddenly that Alice had not a moment to think about stopping herself before she found herself falling down a very deep well. Either the well was very deep, or she fell very slowly, for she had plenty of time as she went down to look around her and to wonder what was going to happen next. First, she tried to look down to make out what she was coming to, but it was too dark to see anything. Then she looked at the sides of the well and noticed that they were filled with cardboards and bookshelves. Here and there she saw maps and pictures hung upon pegs. She took down a jar from one of the shelves, and she passed it. It was labeled orange marmalade, but to her great disappointment it was empty. She did not like to drop the jar for fear of killing somebody, so managed to put it in one of the cardboards as she fell past it. Well, thought Alice to herself, after such a fall, I shall think nothing of tumbling downstairs. How bravely they'll all think of me at home. Why, I wouldn't say anything about it, even if I fell off the top of the house, which was very likely true. Down, would the fall never come to an end? I wonder how miles I've fallen by this time. She said aloud, I must be getting somewhere near the center of the earth. Let me see, that would be 4,000 miles down. I think for you see, Alice had learned several things over this sort in her lessons in the schoolroom, and thought this was not a very good opportunity for showing off her knowledge, and there was no one to listen to her. Still, it was good practice to say it all over. Yes, that's about the right distance, but then I wonder that latitude and longitude. I've got to go. Alice had no idea what latitude or longitude was either, but thought they were nice grand words to say. Presently she began again. I wonder if I shall fall right through the earth. How funny it'll seem to come out among the people they walk on their heads downward. The She'd rather be glad there was no one listening this time, as it did sound at all the right word. But I shall have to ask them what the name of the country is, you know. Please, Mamma, is this New Zealand, Australia? And she tried to curtsy as she spoke. Fancy curtsying as you're falling through the air. What do you think you could manage? When do you think you could manage it? And what an ignorant little girl shall think for me for asking. No, it'll never do to ask. Perhaps I shall see if it written up somewhere. Down, down, down. There was nothing else to do, so Alice began talking again. Dna was the cat. I hope they'll remember her saucer of milk in tea time. Dna, my dear, I wish you were down here with me. There are no mice in the air. I'm afraid you might catch a bat, and that's very like a mouse, you know. But do cats eat bats, I wonder? And here Alice began to rather sleepy and went on saying to herself in a dreamy sort of way, do cats eat bats? Do cats eat bats? And sometimes do bats eat cats? For you see, as she couldn't answer either question, it didn't much matter which way she put it. She felt that she was dozing off and had just begun to dream that she was walking hand in hand with Dana and saying to her very earnestly, now, Dana, tell me the truth. Did you ever eat a bat? When suddenly, thump, thump, down she came upon a heap of sticks and dry leaves, and the fall was over. Alice was not a bit hurt, and she jumped up on her feet in a moment. She looked up, but it was all dark overhead. Before her was another long passage, and the white rabbit was still in sight, hurrying down it. There was not a moment to be lost. Away went Alice like the wind, and was just in time to hear her say, as it turned the corner, "Oh, my ears and whiskers, how late is it getting?" She was close behind when she turned the corner, but the rabbit was no longer to be seen. She found herself in a long, low hall, which was lit up by a row of lamps and hanging from the roof. There were doors all around the hall, but they were locked. And when Alice had been all the way down one side up and the other, trying every door, she walked sadly down the middle, wondering how she was going to get out again. Suddenly she came upon a little three-legged table, all made of solid glass. There was nothing on it except a tiny golden key, and Alice's first thought that it might be that it might belong to one of the doors of the hall. But Alice, either the locks were too large or the key was too small. But at any rate it would not open any of them. However, the second time around, she came upon a low curtain she had no noticed before. It behind was a little door 15 inches height. She tried the little golden key in the lock, and out, and to her great delight, it fitted. Alice opened the door and found that it led into a small passage, not much larger than a rat hole. She knelt down and looked along the passage into the loveliest garden you ever saw. How she longed to get out of the dark hall and wandered about among those beds of bright flowers and those of cool fountains. But she could not even get her head through the doorway. And even if my head would go through that poor Alice, it would be of very little use without my shoulders. Oh, how I wish to get shut up like a telescope. I think I could, only if how to begin. For you see, so many out of the way things had happened lately. Alice had begun to think that very few things indeed were really impossible. There seemed to be no one use in waiting by the little door, so she went back to the table, half hoping she might find another key in it, or any rate a book of rules for shutting people in like telescopes. This time she found a little bottle on it, which certainly was not here before, said Alice. And round the neck of the bottle a paper label with the words "Drink Me" beautifully printed on it in the letters. It was very well to say "Drink me," but the wise little Alice was not going to do that in a hurry. "No, I'll look first," she said, "and see whether it is marked poison or not." She had read several nice little histories about children who had gone burnt and eaten up by the wild beast, and other unpleasant things, all because they would not remember the simple rules their friends had taught them, such as that a red hot poker will burn you if you hold it too long, and that if you cut your finger very deeply with a knife, it usually bleeds, and she had never forgotten that if you drink much of the bottle marked poison, it almost certain to disagree with you sooner or later. However, this bottle was not marked poison, so Alice ventured to taste it, and finding it very nice, it had in fact a sort of mixed flavor, cherry tart, custard pineapple, roasted turkey, taffy, and buttered hot toast. She very soon finished it off. "What a curious feeling, Alice," said Alice. "I must be shutting up like a telescope." And so it was indeed. She was now only a few 10 inches high, and her face brightened up at the thought that she was now the right size for going through that a little door into that lovely garden garden. First, however, she waited for a few minutes to see if she was going to shrink any farther. She felt a little nervous about this, for it might end.